Hi, I'm Ashton, and today is going to be another Patches and Parley, as you can probably tell from the title. I realized that the last time I did this, it was like a month after the last one, and a lot of people were like, the heck is a Patches and Parley? So, if you're new or you just haven't watched Patches and Parley before, Patches and Parley is kind of like a series kind of thing that I do where I sew something or add something to my jean jacket and I talk about things most of the time, LGBTQIA plus things or political things or intersections of the two, and that's what Parley is. Parley is like a discussion or a debate, so I named it that because alliteration. Today I'm going to be sewing on this little rainbow patch that I have that I got from my friend Emory. So thank you, Emory. This video is for you. They suggested that I talk about being non-binary and how that is with the labels that are often put on me. So that's what I'm going to talk about. Also, Emory, incredibly cool, and I talk to them on Instagram every once in a while, and they're just really sweet and just a cool person. They have a top surgery fundraiser that you should go check out and donate to if you can, or share it, because everything counts, and they deserve it. I've already set up my string because it's a small patch, so I'm using like this tiny needle, and I'm a little bit scared because I know I'm gonna poke myself, but the question is how many times. Also, I have some spikes to put on my jacket, and I'm going to do that at some point, but I don't know if I should make a Patches and Parley out of it because I don't know if it'll take that long. I actually want this right above the pink triangle, even though that's not the middle of the sleeve. So most of you probably see me as, you know, the typical term that a lot of trans guys use, FTM. And I don't like that term for myself. Like, people using it for me is fine. I'm not going to get offended by it. I'd rather you not use it for me, but I totally get that that is what's normal. You know, pretty much every trans guy on the face of the planet, pretty much, uses FTM as, like, a name for the group. The community of trans guys, I guess. And I don't know, I've always felt kind of disconnected from that. And it's a weird feeling because I am on testosterone and I've gotten top surgery, but this is not my FTM transition. This is my transmasculine transition. This is a non-binary transition. Like, it's more of a personal gender thing. I'm not a male. You know, I am more male than female. I'm just not such a binary thing, and I don't like being put into that box. So I've always felt a bit isolated in the community because everybody seems to use the term FTM. And I do label myself as a trans guy, but I'm not FTM. And part of that is because I don't like the binary of male, but I also don't like the implication that I was once female. Ow, I poked myself. I just hate the implication that what we're changing is the binary interpretation of our sex, you know? So while it's not something I'll, like, correct people on most of the time, I don't consider myself FTM. Do I consider myself trans? Yes. Do I consider myself transmasculine? Yeah. Do I consider myself a trans guy or a trans boy? Yeah. But I don't consider myself completely binary, and I don't consider myself FTM. I poked it through the jacket and through the patch, but I also poked it through my skin in the process, so I literally almost just stitched my finger to my jacket. Another thing that I find interesting is that because I do consider myself more of a demi-boy, like more of a non-binary trans guy, my pronouns, I'm comfortable with he, but I'm also comfortable with they. Even though those are the pronouns that, like, I'll introduce myself with, and the pronouns that I have in my bio, people do generally call me he. Don't know if that's because it's easier for people to call me he, which I totally get, or if people don't see me as non-binary, which would make sense. I thought that was my boyfriend's car for a second. I was really confused. Ow. And it's not that I'm more comfortable with they than I'm comfortable with he, because I do generally prefer he, but I'm completely okay with they as well, and I don't know why nobody uses it for me. The other thing is, though, most of the time gendered words don't make me uncomfortable. Like, girl gendered ones do, but being called a dude or man or guy, like, casually, those things don't bother me at all. And I know for a lot of non-binary people they do. And you know, all the tags in the trans guy community are FTM, FT this, FT that, and that's partly Chase Ross, who, you know, kind of jokes around with that female to grandma and stuff. But I just don't identify with the label FTM. You know, if I had to have one word for my gender, it would be transmasculine, if that counts as one word. I think I can make that one word. That's one word. But I feel like a lot of people do interpret that as, oh, trans guy. And yes, I am a trans guy, but I'm not a binary trans guy, and that seems to be the default when I tell people I'm trans. And I don't think binary should be the default. To increase the acceptance of non-binary genders and to make them more visible, we need to stop assuming that binary is the norm, because binary isn't the only thing that's out there, you know? I do tend to embrace both my masculine and feminine sides, and that's something that I like and something that I enjoy doing, but I don't completely identify with but I don't completely identify with being a male or like a mask man or anything. Something else that's interesting to me is how your perception of your gender identity can change over time. So before I came out as, you know, trans, like I want to transition and I want to be referred to as he, him, and Ashton, I identified as genderqueer. And that was because I was figuring out, you know, what I liked to be called, who I am. And once I figured that out, I thought I was binary. I thought, like, oh, no, genderqueer is an identity for while I'm figuring it out. But now that I know I want to transition, I'm just a trans guy. I'm FTM. And for a while, I was comfortable with that word. But now that I actually reflect and think more about my gender, I'm not. Again, it's not that I'm completely uncomfortable with the notion of being FTM. Like, yes, I realize that technically that's what I am, but I don't have to claim that as an identity, and I feel like that's something that's really important. It's also something that I tend to be not as open about, because as much as I talk about my transition, that is normally seen as something that is binary. This needle is so tiny. Ow! There's so many cool non-binary people, and I feel like they don't get as much recognition as a lot of the binary trans people do, because that's the narrative that media likes to represent. Like, yes, this person was born as a woman, but now it is a man. Because that's the easiest thing for cis people to understand. But the thing is, I never asked you to understand my gender. I don't need anyone to understand my gender. I don't even understand my gender sometimes. I just know that I prefer being called him. I prefer looking and being read as a boy. But I also don't completely identify with that term, and that's okay. I'm comfortable with where I am, and I'm comfortable with where I'm going. You don't have to understand my gender identity to accept it. So for me, the pronoun she is like the most uncomfortable sweater. It's like you bought it at a thrift market like 20 years ago and you like regretted it the moment that you paid for it, and it's so scratchy and it has like 5 tags on it and you don't know where they are, and maybe it has fleas in it, okay? It's just a terrible sweater and you'd never want to wear it. And then there's the pronoun they, which for me is like a grandma knitted sweater that's really comfortable, but you're kind of embarrassed wearing it. And then there's he, which is like a nice store-bought sweater that's also really comfortable, and I like wearing that one. My comfort with multiple pronouns doesn't invalidate the fact that I'm still trans. There's no rule in the gender book that says that you have to present a certain way to use certain pronouns. There's no rules when it comes to gender, and if you are a binary identifying person, that's fine, but it's also important to respect and acknowledge that non-binary people do exist. The thing is, sometimes finding a word that matches perfectly with your gender identity and how you feel about it is just not a reality. But that's okay. I don't think anyone needs to have a word that perfectly describes their gender for it to be validated. Ow! I also think that non-binary people shouldn't be criticized for the words that they do decide to use for themselves. Ow! Why does this hurt so much? Please stop doing yard work. Wait. Someone's using a leaf blower. There's snow on the ground. What is he leaf blowing? There's snow. I don't understand. I'm also thinking about doing a P.O. box soon, because there's one place that has P.O. boxes that's like biking distance from my house, so I could like bike there once a week or every other week or something and pick up letters or whatever you guys want to send me. I don't know, because a lot of people have asked for that. It's not like I don't want to do that, it's just that is like a lot of work. And P.O. boxes are like a lot less expensive. Ow! People will tell me that I look like a cis guy and like expect me to take it as a compliment. And I know that they have good intentions, and I don't want to undermine that. But my goal isn't to look like a cis guy. I want to look like myself. Ow! Ow! This is ridiculous. Oh, I also wanted to talk about the term FTX. It's something that was actually introduced to me by Emory, actually, because that's what they use, like, in their hashtags, and I think it's really interesting, because I'd never heard of that before then, but like looking, ow! Because it's like a kind of, yeah, I was assigned female at birth, but now you can't gender me. No, I thought it was really cool, and it's something that I don't think is as prevalent as FTM. Also, I wonder now if like MTX is a thing, because like that just sounds like a superhero. So does FTX. You know what? Trans people are superheroes. Case closed. I don't know. I think it's really, really cool how there are so many terms within the trans community that like not even all trans people are aware of. It's just so expansive and really inclusive if you look far enough into it. I think my main message is that there's a label for everything, and if you want to find a label for yourself, that's super cool, and you should look into it, because sometimes labels can make you feel, you know, like part of a community, and labels can make you feel a lot better about yourself. Like you belong somewhere, but also if you don't feel like you fit into any certain label, that's totally fine. Ow. You can label yourself with like 20 million different labels, or you can label yourself with like one or none. It doesn't matter. Really, when it comes to labels, especially with being non-binary, you just have to find something that feels right to you, or just nothing, and accept that, hey, maybe there's not, you know, one concrete word that can completely envelop my gender, but that's fine. You never need to explain yourself to anyone. Labels aren't as important as a lot of people think they are. And I'm not saying that to invalidate people that do like labels, because hell, I have like 20 labels for myself, and that's okay too. It's just that I feel like labels aren't always necessary, and we should stop putting so much emphasis on them as a way to group people. So yeah, labels are a great tool and can be super helpful when you're figuring out who you are, but if you don't feel like you completely adhere to one label, that's completely fine too, and you don't have to. But yeah, I think that's generally what I do want to say about labels and being non-binary and the intersection between those two things. I do have 2 more patches and parleys. Parleys? I have 3 more patches and parleys to do at some point soon, hopefully. I have 2 more patches and then my studs slash spikes. So if anyone has like an idea for something that I should talk about during patches and parley, hit me. Generally it's queer slash politics related, but I'm open to other things too. So I'm gonna show you the patch real quick. This is the finished product. I added this little rainbow here on my sleeve. It's so cute. So thank you, Emory, and thank everybody else for watching. I'm gonna remind you again to go look at Emory's top surgery fund. I hope you all find a term or become comfortable with not having a term for your gender, and I'll talk to you later, maybe.